Joining me now is our friend, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Robert Garcia of California. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm curious, Congressman, your reaction to the escalating situation in Minneapolis and to President Trump opening a criminal investigation into Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey, claiming they conspired to impede ICE operations in the city. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, every American should be concerned about what's happening right now with ICE and with DHS and with a corrupt administration that is completely out of control as ICE is right now. We're seeing what's happening in Minneapolis, what happened to obviously Miss Good, but it's also happening across the country. And there were really serious actions that happened here in California and Los Angeles just a few months ago. Raids continue. People are being kidnapped off the streets. When you look at what's happening in Minnesota on the ground and somehow a prosecution of the governor and mayor because Donald Trump doesn't like what they're doing and because they're actually trying to stand up for people also on the ground. This is an administration that is so inherently corrupt, and they have turned our law enforcement agencies, our federal law enforcement agencies, against our own people. They are now turning our agencies against our own people. And that's what should be very concerning to everyone. Look, what ICE is doing, and I've talked to a lot of law enforcement, local law enforcement, police officers, particularly those in my city. They are damaging the trust between local law enforcement. Police officers have worked so hard to rebuild, especially in the last 5-6 years. That rebuilding is being decimated by what ICE is doing, because right now people are looking and viewing law enforcement on the ground as one force. And it's very concerning. Everyone should be up in arms. Kristi Noem should resign, certainly be removed from office. And we're, of course, all watching what's happening in Minnesota now very closely.
To that end, that last part, at least 70 Democrats have signed on to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. They're accusing her of blocking congressional oversight, of abusing her authority, and of misleading the public about violent crime arrests. So you have not publicly backed that effort. So explain why. Does the evidence fall short of proving that Noem violated the law?
No, actually, I think that she should absolutely be either removed or resign. As the ranking member of Oversight, myself and likely the head of Judiciary, Jamie Raskin, would likely be involved in any sort of legal impeachment proceedings that would go through our committees, certainly as the investigative committee. So we're reviewing all of that right now, but I support the effort. Make no mistake, Kristi Noem should be removed or she should resign immediately from her office. She is a disgrace. She is corrupt. She is, there are reports that she and others may be benefiting from what's happening at DHS and this kind of privatization of detention centers, what she's doing with ICE, the way that she has completely changed how someone gets hired into that federal agency. And so I think you're going to hear a lot in the weeks ahead about how this focus has to be on Noem. What she is doing is beyond what any DHS secretary has done. And she's turning our own federal agencies against our own people. She's militarizing them. The masked men, the kidnapping, the throwing people to the ground. There's a young man here in Los Angeles that just last week, an ICE agent shot in the face, and now he's blind. Blind. We saw what happened to Miss Good losing her life. This is causing harm across the country, and she and Donald Trump have to be stopped.
Well, it sounds like you're just preserving your ability to be involved in anything that would be forthcoming from a lawmaker's standpoint. That's why you've not officially signed on, but we certainly understand the sentiment. Let me move to you and the Oversight Democrats who've launched an investigation into President Trump's actions in Venezuela, accusing him of coordinating with U.S. oil companies to illegally seize the country's resources. So this week, Trump signed an executive order blocking courts or creditors from tapping any Venezuela oil revenue held by the U.S. Treasury, after pushing U.S. oil executives at a White House meeting to invest $100 billion in the country. If Congress's probe finds proof of corruption or coordination for private gain, what actions will the committee pursue?
Well, this is very much in line also with what we're doing as it relates to DHS and ICE. Let's be clear what's happening with Venezuela. What's happening there is the president has made a decision to go into a foreign nation, remove its leader, who, by the way, no one thinks is a good guy, a horrible dictator, and then seize assets that belong to the people of Venezuela for the good of who? himself, the Trump family, oil companies, his billionaire friends. Now there's hundreds right now, already hundreds of millions of dollars. There's going to be billions of dollars that are now going to be removed from that country and given to God knows who. We have no idea where this money is going. We understand there's going to be a significant chunk of money held in Qatar. Why Qatar? We not no explanation. And the president has committed that we're going to be there in the country for the foreseeable future, investing in Venezuela's infrastructure to rebuild their oil infrastructure. While public schools in this country are falling apart, while people's healthcare costs are going up in the United States, while people's own roads and sidewalks need investment here, he wants to rebuild another country so oil companies can then extract the oil, enrich themselves, and make themselves all rich. And so it is a complete part of the broader Trump corruption scam that is happening in this country. He enriches himself, his family, his billionaire friends. Don't forget Trump's declaration to oil executives just a year ago, when he said that they're all going to make a ton of money under him and his policies. And so all of this needs to be documented. All of this needs to be investigated, and there will be actions and repercussions on every corrupt action that Donald Trump and certainly the administration and the family is taking.
Switching gears, a New York federal judge this week demanded the Justice Department explain why it is slow-rolling the release of Epstein documents after oversight members Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie accused the department of unlawfully withholding most of the files. Does the DOJ's claim, Congressman, that it needs to review and redact more than 2 million documents, does it justify blowing past the legal deadline to release them? And will your committee subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi and other DOJ officials to force compliance?
This is obviously, at this point, it is insanity that they have released 1% of the Epstein files. 1%. We think there's up to 5 million documents they have yet released to the public. And what they've released so far, there has been some important information in there that has been important for our investigation, yet they refuse to actually bring justice to the survivors. They are more interested in protecting pedophiles and protecting wealthy billionaire men and buddies of Donald Trump than actually doing anything to bring justice for the survivors. Now, we had brought forward a request to the federal judge through Ro Khanna and Tom Massie to get a special master appointed to move these documents out. Pam Bondi just said, I believe just yesterday, that they're opposing any efforts, that they have the right to essentially release files as they wish, which is breaking the law. There's a subpoena in place that was actually put in last summer. There is the law that Congress passed, yet they refuse to release any documents. As it relates to Pam Bondi, I think it's incredibly hypocritical for James Comer to go out and try to hold in contempt his political enemies, while Pam Bondi is actively breaking the law, and he refuses to hold her in contempt, or he refuses to bring in Ghislaine Maxwell. What about Ghislaine Maxwell, who abused herself, women and girls? He could care less about dragging them into the committee. All he cares about is political retribution for the folks that he wants to go after, and he's not interested in actual justice for the survivors.
Always good to have an in-depth conversation with you, my friend. Congressman Robert Garcia of California, thank you so much.